Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it's time for another breakfast chat. And today we're going to chat about unilateral imbalances. We're going to talk about how some of them are imaginary and signs that you may be developing a body image disorder. You might need to see a therapist. Why sometimes they prevent injuries. It's actually good to have them. And let's talk about how to actually fix them and not fix them. And by the way, it seems there's a lot of people really upset. I'm banning a lot of trolls because I'm making more videos right now. I don't know why you guys are so upset. Quit hating, man. Quit hating. So, over to the point. First of all, you probably don't have a left or right imbalance. Okay? If you haven't confirmed it with strength stuff, right? You haven't confirmed, like on maybe a machine that locks in and you can test stuff. You haven't confirmed it with force plates, a DEXA scan. Other people aren't noticing it and telling you without you mentioning it. You probably don't have an imbalance. Okay. I have a confirmed imbalance. Part of my bicep was cut out by a doctor. I'm not going to get into the full backstory. I lost a chunk of muscle right through here. I have one bicep smaller than the other. On DEXA scans, I also have one lat slightly bigger than the other because my left lat has to compensate on a lot of pulling. Okay, that imbalance is necessary. It's physical damage, right? And unless you have serious physical damage, you probably don't have as big of an imbalance as you think you do. Now, you might have it from really bad technique. You could have one. But just being aware that you may not have the imbalance that you think you do. Again, you're going to see it come out in your lifting if you have a significant one, right? You're going to see you'll always lock one side of the bar more than the other with a bench press. Like 4 or 5 inches difference on the way up, right? That's a good sign. Things like that. Those things can be giveaways, but it's usually your piss poor training that's created that. And it can also be that your body fat storage is different, right? Our body fat is not perfectly balanced left to right in our body. You might have one side of your body, one arm or leg or pec that is slightly leaner than the other, and it gives the illusion when you're looking in the mirror that it's bigger than the other. You can't spot reduce that fat, okay? If that's your concern and you're freaking out about it, you might need to get leaner, or you need to stop worrying about aesthetics before you develop a mental disorder that's going to harm you. That might be your other option because it's going to harm you if you do. Half this fitness industry is built upon body image disorders that are harmful, including to the people who are even teaching you stuff. A lot of the content creators here have obvious mental illnesses regarding their body image. You don't want to go down that route. But it may be imaginary. Now, assuming you have an imbalance, here's one of the problems we run into. People will say things, oh, dumbbells will fix it. No. If you've created an imbalance, dumbbells will make it worse. That is one of the most ridiculous myths, and I'm not going to get into the full details because I've done entire 10 and 15 minute videos explaining why, but largely you either have weak stabilizers, and stabilizers are not magical unnamed muscles. I'll give you an example. You might have weak stabilizers on your bench press. What do we mean by weak stabilizers? Your lats and your biceps. Those are stabilizers. Doing lifts that include more stabilizers doesn't make them grow. Your lats and biceps are not going to grow because you switch to dumbbells, even though they require more stabilizers. Does that make sense? They're not going to make your bicep big to do dumbbell presses. Dumbbells can be extremely valuable for upper body lifts. They're generally worthless and inferior for anything on the lower body. Don't let anybody convince you otherwise. They're full of crap. Barbells will always be better than dumbbells for your lower body. Upper body, there are a lot of uses for dumbbells. That includes for us strength athletes. They can allow for certain types of changes in development, mainly due to the freer range of motion, not having to hit your body with stuff, right? We won't cover all the details there. They can be useful tools, especially when paired with your barbells. No doubt about that. They will not fix imbalances. If you have an imbalance on your benching because you have weak stabilizers and because you grind like this every time you get to a hard rep, and you do that consistently, you're going to do the same thing with a dumbbell. And with the dumbbell, you're going to have more room to shift to make it even worse. You're going to make your imbalance even worse with dumbbells. It's not a solution. Not a solution. Solutions: get tighter. Get tighter and have better overall muscle balance. You shouldn't have weak lats and weak biceps, for example, right? Shouldn't have weak lats. Why aren't you training your lats? Why aren't you training your upper back more? Right, that'll help prevent a lot of those imbalances. Get tighter. Wider stance movements, right? Leg imbalances, you want to reduce some of it, use wider stances on all your lower body lifts. Wider grip benching. Wider grip movements will help correct those imbalances because it's harder to cheat. The other thing to think about, our bodies are not symmetrical anyways. So if most humans, the majority of us, have one leg longer than the other, it's your bone structure. We have one arm longer than the other. This is normal. That's going to affect your muscle symmetry because if you are training balanced and training correctly, what's going to happen? You're going to have small differences in the balance on one side versus the other. And they will tend to almost invert. So if you have one tricep that's slightly bigger, you'll probably have the opposite bicep slightly bigger. If you have one quad that's slightly bigger, the hamstring on that side is probably slightly smaller. And a lot of it has to do with balancing movements. It's one reason I tell people worrying about things like some hip shift is actually silly. You probably have different hip angles. Okay, our structures are not symmetrical in humans. They're not perfectly symmetrical. You can have one hip socket. You probably have one that has 3 or 4 degrees difference in the angle of it than the other. What are you going to do about it? You're going to have major surgeries to try to repair all these imbalances in your structure. It's not going to work out too well. So you're going to have some asymmetry sometimes in your muscular development, small amounts. And that's okay because it actually helps keep everything balancedly loaded so that you don't hurt yourself. It actually is not a bad thing. It's just a way that you're going to build even if you're trying to do your training balance. It's normal. You're not trying to win bodybuilding shows where everything has to be perfect. I hope not, because you wouldn't be on this channel if you cared about that. It's not hurting your performance. It's not hurting your injury risk. Those imbalances develop because they're the way that we adapt to our own asymmetry. But they're going to be very small. They're going to be very minor. They're not a big deal. But that is normal. They won't be visible, though. Do you think you see imbalances that aren't there? You're developing a psychosis from your body image disorder. It's time to go see a therapist. Especially if it's actually upsetting you. You're concerned about it. That's a problem. How do we fix these things if we do have some? Isolateral work also. Wider stance movement, isolateral work. What do I mean by isolateral work? You could do one-legged exercises and alternate and always start with your weaker side. If you know that your left leg is weaker than your right, always lead with the left side so it'll determine the number of reps you get. Step-ups, you see me do. Bulgarian split squats, right? Things like that. One-legged Romanian deadlifts. And you notice all these are all barbell movements to fix this on the lower body because it's just easier to do. Dumbbells create stability problems for no benefit on lower body. No benefit to it. You'll move less weight for no reason. And it will make it harder to balance these things out because you're fighting balance rather than hypertrophying the muscles. Upper body, the same sort of stuff. One arm dumbbell floor presses, for example. I mean, you can do them on a bench too. It's going to be a lot harder. You're going to have to do really high reps. But you can do them on the floor if you wanted to do 10 or less reps. One arm, take your weaker side to pretty much failure. Replicate the reps, switching to the other side. It will force you to be more even because we're doing it isolateral. Again, as long as we're relatively strict. Same thing with overhead pressing. Right, you can do it with overhead pressing. Okay? These things are fixable this way. Isolateral movements with dumbbells for upper body, with barbells for lower body. I mean, you could use machines for some of this too. I'm not a big fan of machines, but it might lock you in a little more stable for these isolateral movements. Okay? You can fix these imbalances this way if they are real. And if they're real, you'll see them on these devices. When you do these stricter one arm or leg movements, whether it's free weights or machines, you will see a different number of reps if you have a true imbalance. Right? You won't be able to do the exact same number of reps with each side. In other words, you'll be hitting failure on rep 10 on the left side, but you'll feel like you could do 5 more reps on the other side. You could do 15 on the stronger side. Right? That's an imbalance. If you can only do one more, it's probably not real. Not real enough, so you shouldn't be able to see the difference in any way. Not at all. But these are your solutions. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.